what does it look like to be a contributor in that kind of way? And so I think it's just appropriate to celebrate some of these things. So we're going to go through these things. We like to say one of our values is that we value our neighbors next door, down the street, and around the world. To us, next door would be like our neighbors, like neighborhood and Sacramento. This is next door. Down the street would be like our national kind of partnerships. There's things that are going on across our nation that we have the opportunity to give to, and we're prayerfully considering. And then around the world, obviously, is global. And so we're gonna attack it kind of in this. I want to share a few things that we're doing here. So can we show our local partnerships? So here's some things that we've given to over the last year locally. We have a Young Life missionary named Whitney that we support, that she has started a club or several clubs that take place in middle schools and junior highs in our neighborhood, in our area here, that help the kids to find community and find Jesus. It's called Young Life, and so we support her. We've given $563 of kind of monthly contributions. City pastors, you may or may not know this, but we actually support, there's a network of pastors in Sacramento. Basically, it covers every pastor in Sacramento. If somebody moves in or somebody plants a church, a lot of times in a lot of cities you go in and it's competitive and it's mean, honestly. Sacramento is a special place, man, where the pastors here, and they invite you into a community, which is really special. And what happens is pastoring can be a lonely gig, a lonely thing. People are finding community. They're finding resources. They're finding connections. And so we support that as well at like $50 a month, a little more than $50 a month. And so that's $13.22. We picked that up halfway through the year. City of Refuge, they're a local nonprofit. We actually launched our church in their building 2 years ago. And that was the starting place. But they called us a while back and they said, hey, we need some basic necessities for the ladies in the housing. Could you guys help out? And so they asked for just a couple things. We went ahead and we gave extra because that's what we do. And so we gave them more than enough, set them up, and so only cost $100, but we took care of them in that way. Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I'm going to show you a video here in just a moment. Some of you all know Caleb Tate. You know, okay? All right, so he's a part of the church here. He oversees youth as well. Prior to him overseeing youth here, we had already picked him up as an FCA missionary. And what he does is he goes into local high schools around the city and he starts Christian clubs for athletes. And I've been blown away at the impact of these. I think out of all of our local kind of things that we do that are local partnerships, this is probably, in my opinion, right now, the most impactful, and I'm so excited about it. We're talking hundreds of kids that are giving their lives to Jesus as a result of these clubs. He's opening up, I think, 3 different new clubs in the spring that are coming up too, Christian clubs. These are student-driven. Yeah, isn't that awesome? These are student-driven, so they're raising up leaders in the process, and it's powerful. So I want to let you see a video of him. He's going to share a little bit.
Good morning, Hope Community Church. Caleb Tate here, part of our dream team, here to give you guys a brief update on a local ministry that Hope Community has partnered with for over the last year. And that ministry is called FCA, better known as Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And FCA's mission is to see the world transformed by Jesus Christ through the influence of coaches and athletes. And how we do that is by going to high school campuses and setting up student-led Christian clubs so we can have an evangelical message right where the students are at. And so far this semester, we've gone to over 6 campuses, had over 12 meetings, and seen over 100 students say yes to a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. On top of that, we've seen over 120 Bibles find new homes, and we bought over 100 boxes of pizza to feed these hungry students. None of this would be possible without the generosity of this church. And we're only going to get bigger and better next semester as we, drum roll, launch our club again at Sac High right here in Oak Park. So I look forward to seeing that happen as we have several other campuses in the area that we are going to be launching on in January. But none of this would be possible without your generosity, and we thank you so much for seeing the gospel reach the masses throughout Sacramento. Your heart for students, your heart for missions, and your heart for Jesus does not go unnoticed, and we are all building treasure in heaven. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart and the rest of the FCA team. We say thank you, and we can't wait to see what God does in the next semester of the school year.
Come on. Isn't that awesome? Something else that you can celebrate is that you can start eating, by the way. We forgot to tell you could eat. So go ahead and grab some food as we're talking. It's not rude. I consider it good stewardship. So get after it and enjoy. Hey, I will say that's pretty awesome, pretty incredible update, no doubt. And we celebrate that. We have a part in that. Every student that says yes to Jesus through FCA, we've sown into together. And so that's really, really awesome. Another outreach that we have sown into that's local is Victory Outreach. We're going to go back one slide. Apologies. Victory Outreach. Victory Outreach is a addiction recovery home. And what we do is, as we do the block party, we partner with them and we make a donation. They do some things to help out, but we make a donation to them as well to help these men get their lives together, take that next step, walk in freedom. It's a big deal. Man, I don't know about you. I get excited about seeing people get delivered and walk out freedom in the areas of addiction. Come on, isn't that awesome? And so we've given $1,300 this year to Victory's Outreach Men's Home as well, which is awesome, incredible. Okay, we can go to the next one. Let's go to our local outreach and care. A couple of things that we've done. You may or may not know this, but at different times we find out about needs that are going on that are maybe very specific to people, and we pray about it. We talk about it as a leadership team, and occasionally we make a decision. Hey, we're gonna help in this situation that someone's going through. And so we got this here, congregational care, $855. A large portion of that was crisis counseling as well. We don't always do this, and we have to be careful because obviously, it's a portion of the budget, it's a percentage, but we want to make sure that that's something too that's available within our congregation, and we're walking out with some people. Movie night at the park, we have a slide for that too, $1,500 for that. Can we show a slide for that one? I don't know, how many of y'all were at movie night at the park? There was just a few of us there, yeah, a few of us, come on. And if you were there, man, the community showed up, didn't they? I looked around and I saw Oak Park. I was like, man, this is my Oak Park fam that showed up. I don't know what the final count was. There was well over 100 people that were there that night. I'll tell you what's beautiful in those types of environments. Why are we doing things like that? Why invest money in something like that? Two pieces. One, the church is a safe place. But listen, people aren't going to know the church is a safe place unless we create safe places where they are. And so doing something like this, man, we're just building relationship with people. And there were several people who were there that were like, man, like I've heard about your church, or I didn't even know that you guys existed. Had several people come up and like, man, I don't know what it is. This just feels different here. And I don't know about y'all, but like I think that's a little bit of Jesus, in the park on that day as we're watching Toy Story. It's just a little bit of Jesus there. And we heard from our city officials and stuff, too, that they're like, man, this was such a great thing. We'd love to partner again, all those kind of things. And so that's something that you put together. In the future, encouragement, as those come up again, because we're going to do it again next summer. It was awesome. As we do that again, come out. Be a part of that. Invite some people out, because that's a really great night of just community. And it is a little bit of like the outreach side, because we get to make some friends, meet some people. But it's also something, too, that we get to benefit from as well. I know my kids loved it. All right, next, or go back to that one. Okay, moving out to the park. And then lastly, local outreach and care is our back-to-school block party. Come on, somebody. That was awesome. Now, what's wild about this is, this number makes it look like the event's really cheap. I'll tell you what, here's one of the ways that you can know that God's hand is on something, is that when God accelerates things beyond what you could do. And the block party is one really, really great example of where, like, we've trusted and we said, we'll put our money where our mouth is, and we're invested, and whatever the difference is, we're going to cover. But Lord, we also need you to show up. I did a little bit of counting and kind of broke down like the layers of partnership. And at the end of the day, we had roughly $17,500 of support come in from outside sources to make this event happen. Can we give it up for God? So on the surface, we see numbers like this, and by the way, a church our size, that's pretty impressive of like generosity. Man, that's so awesome that you all are involved in giving, to that level. We'll show that video in a minute. But on the other side too is that like as we're sowing in, God is multiplying this out beyond what just we could do, and that's kingdom. So let's go ahead. I guess we got the video ready. We'll show that video real quick. Go ahead. Come on. What's cool that's not included in that, like all those numbers too, is that then people came to church the next day and got saved, gave their lives to Jesus. Man, we celebrate those kind of things because those are miracles in the house. Those are dreams where we're praying about it and we're like, God, you're going to have to provide. We were praying into it a year before we took that kind of first big step of dreaming for this. And then the next year, it was like God provided again. How many of y'all want to see God do it again? Come on. That's what he does. That's what he does, man. All right, hey, let's move on to our national partnerships. Is it good to hear about some of these things? Fun to celebrate some of this. National impact. We can go ahead and show that first slide here. A couple things that we give to that are national. We give to the Assemblies of God. It's a small amount, but as an Assemblies of God church, we say, hey, can you help us out with a little bit? We say, yes, absolutely. They literally asked for $50. I gave them $50. But we'll see as that partnership continues to develop, what God does in that. But we're praying through some of that. Another one, and this is a missionary with the Assemblies of God. He is a local missionary, but national in his reach. People of his presence, Ben Brown. Some of y'all were here when Ben came and led worship for us a while back. Man, it was so incredible. And what Ben does is he goes into churches that are small to mid-sized churches, sometimes larger churches, and he takes and says, man, I'm gonna help to cultivate an atmosphere of worship, a heart of worship within the church, and I'm going to train people and help them gain the skills necessary to lead worship as well, and to help people to have encounters with God. And so we at the very beginning, he called me. We're friends from back in the day, and he called me up and said, hey, I'm jumping out into this thing. I just wanted to let you know, because we had partnered with him in different ways before. And I said, oh, absolutely. And so I began to ask him, because I know what it's like to take that big jump and say, okay, God, we're going to take a big leap of faith. We don't know how you're going to provide for this thing, but we know that we're called. That was a lot of church planting, was that. And I said, hey, how's your funding going? Where are you at? We were one of the first churches to hop behind him and say, you know what, here's a gift. We're going to help you get started. We're going to sow into you and believe in faith. And we gave him a gift of $550. Can we give it up for the Lord and give it up for yourselves? That's awesome. By the way, we have a video for that. So let's go ahead and show the video of Pastor Ben Brown.
Hope Community, this is Ben Brown with People of His Presence Ministries. As you know, my wife and I are AG U.S. Missionary Associates with the assignment of worship renewal and resourcing for the local church. And it was great being with you a few months back, doing ministry in your church, and just contending with you for greater levels of His presence. And I just wanted to send this video to thank you. Thank you, Pastor Caleb and Michelle. You guys are awesome. Thank you, church, for your love and support. We are seeing incredible things, and it's in part because of people just like you. So we look forward to partnering with you in the future and continuing to see his presence among his people. God bless you all.
Come on, can we give it up? Another network that we're a part of that has national reach that is making a huge impact is the Association of Related Churches. They're called ARC for short. And what they do is that they equip and empower church planters with training and resources, as well as connection, finances, coaching. Jules came out just a few months ago. Jules is our ARC coach from back in the day, and now he's one of our elders, overseers, and board members. And anyways, we were at ARC conferences last year, and as we were sitting, we just felt like the Lord said, hey, we are the Hope Community. We're called to plant churches, not just to be this, but God is calling us long-term. We're going to be planting churches, whether they're campuses of the Hope Community or whether they're independent and stand alone, and to do it in the margins and in different communities. And so we said, man, we felt like the Lord was saying, sow the seed, sow the seed. And so we said, you know what, God, what's that seed? We really felt $500 was the number. And so we wrote a check for $500, and we invested into church planting to resource church planters across the nation as well. I know that can sound maybe ambiguous or kind of like, what does that look like or whatever. And so I wanted to show you a video of some of the impact. And so what you're about to see is Dino Rizzo. He is one of the leaders within ARC. And he is going to share a little bit about what's taken place just in the last year. So this is what your giving this last year has gone to. So can we show that video?
Hey ARC family, Dino Rizzo here. It's an absolute privilege to serve as Executive Director of ARC, and I wanted to take a moment to celebrate the incredible things that your support and giving has made possible this year. And then I want to share some insights about what God is doing and the growing need of opportunity for church planting. So again, thanks for your prayers, your generosity, your partnership. Because of your generosity, 35 new churches were planted in 2024. Brings the number of ARC churches to the miraculous number of 1,132 churches. Wow. And listen to this, on launch days alone, we saw more than 13,700 people in attendance on the first day. And on that first day, 890 people made a decision to follow Christ. These churches, I believe, every single weekend, have become these beacons of hope. They shine the love of Jesus across their communities. And I want you to see something that I'm very encouraged by. Our launch day attendance is up 27% year over year. So you see that more people are coming to it, which means more people are giving their life to Christ. But you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. Just in the United States, the need for church planting is greater than ever. We've been thinking a lot about that. I want you to hear something. Just in the last few years, more churches have closed than opened. There's a big gap, and we've got to address that in these communities and in these real underserved cities, these undersaturated cities. So the number of church plants really need to double, even triple, to meet the growing demand of population growth, the shifting logistics of where people are in those demographics. So that's why ARC's work is so crucial, and your support is huge right now. We have about 91 couples that are actively in the launch process. That's all the process, and they're preparing, hopefully, to plant new churches. We've equipped and empowered more than 475 church planters through 5 dynamic launch training events. But then also, these trainings aren't just events, they're transformational moments where future pastors receive the wisdom, the coaching, the inspiration, the resources, so that they can lead and plant a thriving, impactful church in a community. Here's something exciting. Launch application interest has surged by 72% following this year's launch training event. So the application process, there are more leaders that are stepping up to answer the call to plant churches. So we believe these numbers give us a glimpse of the future. We believe it's going to impact communities around the world and around our country. Thank you so much for making this mission possible. We are committed to spreading the good news in every city and every state we can. And we know that 2025, because of your generosity, is going to be greater because of your heart for God. God bless you.
Yeah, come on. Let's give it up for the Lord. Man, isn't that incredible? That's absolutely incredible. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for organizations like ARC coming alongside us, the Hope community wouldn't even exist. And so, man, it is such a privilege for us to be able to pay it forward, because someone did this so that you could be in the room today, and now we get to create that for others as well. A couple kind of cool, you know what, based on time, we'll just keep moving with it. Let's go to global. Let's move to global. We're 20 minutes in at this point, so we'll keep it moving. Global impact. I want to share a couple things with you. First off, there are a couple projects from the past that I want to update you on. Kind of cool sometimes to be able to look back and see. Our first year that we planted, we I think at that point had only had like a total of $12,000 come in for the church. And we said, okay, Lord, 10% belongs to you. That's why we do 10%, because it's the tithe. We don't just believe in the tithe as individuals. The church goes ahead and tithes 10%. And so we looked at 10% and we're like, it's not a lot, but God, can we do this? And so we made an investment based on that into a project called Stone Table, where they were taking, and they had some churches in Africa that were meeting and gathering under trees. And what they found was that for about $5,000, they could actually build a church building for them, which would protect them from the elements of rain, sandstorms, all kind of different things. And so they invited churches to partner. We hopped in and we went ahead and did that as well. I'm trying to check and see my number for what that was. I didn't write it down, but it was around, I think it was around $1,200, because again, we didn't have a ton of money at the time. But pretty cool. We have a testimony kind of video of the guy who's in charge of Live Dead, who oversaw that project. He's going to share a little bit. Do we have that video ready to go?
Hey, friends. We love seeing churches planted and buildings built. I'm standing here in the desert in northern Kenya, and it's hot and windy, and just visited with a church with an older pastor named Musa. For 8 years, he and his church met underneath a tree. He said they got blown and pattered by the wind. The sand would hit them as they were trying to worship. He said sometimes when it rained, they'd have to run home. He said it was so hard, and they kept praying, God, would you please provide a building for us? And as you can see, today they have a building. It's amazing to think that now they're protected from the sun and from the rain. And he was so happy as we talked to him about the blessing and the miracle that this building is for them. Thank you so much for your partnership and helping us plant the church within walking distance of every African.
Come on. Isn't that awesome? What he doesn't mention in that video is that many of these churches, the African church is so dynamic in church planting. And so many of these churches, it's not just like, they become a hub for missionary work that's going on from locals that are reaching their friends in their communities, and some of them are sending out hundreds of pastors to go and plant churches. And so these are multiplying kind of impact type of investments that we're making as we look and say, God, what's the best way to invest what you're giving us to pass through. In addition to that, we went ahead and we gave $500, again, kind of helping to launch a new missions project with F2, Project F2 or F2 Project with Dave Novak, he is going in and mentoring fathers, both around their father wounds to get healing, but also to become heroes for their children. And what's really cool about that, I think we have a slide that shows some pictures. He went in, they were able to minister to over 10,000 at a time. You can see that one right there where he's speaking. This is over here in Africa as well, in smaller settings. And so, I mean, really all over the world doing some ministry, Ecuador as well. And then down at the bottom corner, coming this spring, they're going to be launching groups in Folsom Prison. To work with the inmates in Folsom to help them work through both father wounds and how to be a good father. And man, this is huge. It was super impactful when he came for so many in our church, and that message is going out around the world. You're a big part of that. You're a big part. Can we come on? Let's give it up. Another global partner. We can go back to that other slide. I want to make sure we're going through kind of in thing. Project Rescue. I want to share with you about Project Rescue. Last year, this was our project. Anybody remember this? The Talati, what? Hold on. What's the name of it? I had Talit. I never knew how to say it. I gave it a shot. Talit. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to get stuck. But what was needed is they were trying to build a house and a community center basically for women and for this community in a red light district where they could get the things that they need. Pretty incredible the progress that they've made. Can we show the first slide for that? I think we're going to hold off on the video. I might send that out later for you guys with a link. Pretty incredible. So we made a fairly generous donation ourselves to it. But what's really cool, I wanted to point this out, that the goal was about $746,000. And as of 12/15 of last year, our gift was included in this. They've had $692,000 come in. And they've continued to have money come in, so they're only thousands of dollars away from completing the project. You had a huge part of that. Before you clap or get excited about it, can we show some of the next one? I've got some pictures about what this is. So they took, and literally this was a house of prostitution. And so they would break the girls in there, and then they would use them and exploit them. And what took place is that they were able to purchase this building and turn it from really a house of horrors into a house of healing and a house of hope. Isn't that powerful? And so we see, yeah, come on. So they were able to add in medical offices within this space where girls can get seen and see a doctor. They have a place for tutoring and for children. They have a kitchen to help make some food and help people to access food. All the incredible things that are involved with that. You have a huge part in that as well, which is pretty incredible. Let's go over because of time. We'll move over to Vapor. I always think I'm going to have more time in this, and I never have enough time. Hey, I want to introduce a new project. This project, we've already committed $2,500, and that basically takes us through our full missions budget through the end of the year with some projection of what December is going to be. $2,500 that we're committing to this. I want to share what it is and why. Vapor is a missions organization with the heart to reach the unreached people. And so they go into communities in Africa especially, and they establish community centers where they're able to not just like help people out, but they're hiring workers from within that community or within that village to help build it, and so they get paid. And then they train people from within that community to run the operations. And these buildings aren't just buildings, but they're around them. There's water filtration that's taking place to give them clean and fresh water. There is the ability to farm and harvest. There's tutoring and teaching that's going on. These become community hubs for these villages and these areas that are owned and operated really by the people. And so this is, I don't know if you know this is a part of our vision. I know I shared about, hey, we are going to see church planting come out of here, that it's not just the Hope community right in Oak Park, but we're going to see around the city and in different places. But also there's this heart that we want to see, if you would dream with me, we want to see a hub, a place within Oak Park where we're seeing economic development take place, workforce development take place, tutoring, interacting with different things, providing to the economic flow of things, helping makers and creators in our community to get their start, all of this stuff that's going to help people to gain financial independence, not just giving a handout, although I'm sure that we'll do plenty of that as well, but also really giving a hand up, helping people to take the next step so that they can have financial freedom and walk and live in freedom with dignity in their lives in our community. And so this is the long-term goal, long-term vision that we have, in addition to the church that's going on Sundays. And so why are we partnering with these folks? One, because they're reaching people who have never heard about Jesus. That's huge. How incredible. Like, they're literally going to the ends of the earth. Secondly, is because they're living out the vision that we have in Oak Park in Africa. They're already doing it. And so what better place to take and to sow seed into financially and say, God, we're believing this for us too. We're going to sow seed into this out here. And so the project is in West Africa. It's in Ogu, Togo. Can we change the slide over? A couple pieces of this just in the last year, what Vapor has done. You can see some of the stats that are here. So this is just in the last year what's taken place. 1,400,000 gospel impressions. That's incredible, y'all. 2,413 meals served. almost 700 health services provided 86 million cups of clean water. Like this is meeting some tangible needs as well. Can we go to the next slide? And I want to show you what they're building out here. So you can kind of see here, here's the community hub. They're going to have a football field, soccer, Americans. All right. They're going to have a common area. We're going to have, you can see the fields where they're going to have the ability to grow food as well, water tower, all the different things that are going to be here. And you can see the roadmap as well. And we're coming in here in the roadmap right in between where we are and where the construction is going to begin here in a couple months. Listen, my heart was moved in this, and we really felt strongly like this is something that we need to be a part of. How many of y'all agree? Yeah, we need to be a part of this. And so we're leaning in with $2,500. And I want to make an encouragement along this as well. I want to set a stretch goal as a church to give over and above. My goal is that as a church, we would be able to give $3,500, so another $1,000. We're not going to take an offering for it today, okay? But I do want you to pray about and ask God, what would you have me give towards this? And next week, we'll have the ability to give online, in person, towards this project as well. And then we'll have that through the month of December, so as the Lord's speaking to you. But I want you to begin to pray about that. We'll have a video next week. We're 1 week early. They released the video literally this weekend. I think they're sending it out today. So we missed it by a day. But we'll get the video next week, and we'll be able to show you a little bit more about what they do and what's happened over the last year. But man, I feel like this is good soil to plant into and believe for. And so please do, as you leave this place, pray. Say, Lord, what would you have me sow into? What would you have me sow into? And maybe we'll beat $1,000 by a lot. But as of right now, that would be the largest extra offering that we've ever taken. And so I want to make history and give to something that's really worth giving towards. I think that would be powerful. Hey, last piece as we go. Can we? So I want to share this, and I'm gonna close up here because we're running out of time, anyways. I want to let you know a couple pieces. I'm aware of time. Yeah, let's do this. I was praying last night, and some of this I'm going to share in pieces over time, but I feel like the Lord just gave me a download of vision and heart for our church. And we're going to see over the next couple months, I'm going to kind of drip some of this stuff. But how many of y'all know God's not done? Like, this really is just the beginning. We're going to look back on this. I was talking with Pastor Josh earlier. We called it, once again, the good old days. We're going to look back on this and really with some fondness of like, man, what was this? But could you dream with me for just a moment? Because I don't know about you, but I see this room, filled to capacity. We have 113 chairs. I see 113 adults in this room, worshiping, having encounters with God. I see marriages being restored. I see children raised up in godly environments where they're learning about Christ, where their families are praying with them at home, and they understand the scriptures. I'm seeing in my mind a church that's not just impacting a Sunday morning, but that has economic ripples throughout the community, that's bringing and lifting people out of poverty and giving a fresh start. The word that God put in my heart last night was that we would be leaders in godly compassion in this neighborhood. It's wild when God gives you a word and you're like, I don't even know what that looks like. There's a lot of compassion going on in the neighborhood and a lot of good churches. I don't want to put anyone, you know what I'm saying? This is not a comparison thing. But I feel like there is this calling for the Hope community to not simply be a church that gathers on Sunday morning, but to lead the way in compassion that reflects the nature and the attitude of God towards people. And it looks a lot like the block party, but that's only a piece. And each one of these things, the limitations as we look are not on It's not a matter of do we have enough vision or can we come up with the plan or do we have a plan. In fact, we've got more vision and more plan than we have finances or people for. But it really comes down to, can we believe and sow into this together? Because understand, it's not the Hope Community's vision. This is the vision of our church together. This is us moving together to see a city transformed with the love and the hope of Jesus. And so as you sow in, know that as you give, I know we talk about the tithe and the 10%. As you give that 10%, like it's not just an act of obedience for you. You're taking, saying, I'm going to sow into good ground. And I'm sowing seed into the future that God has for our city through this church. I'm sowing into marriages that are being restored and are going to be restored. I'm sowing into communities in Africa that need water, no doubt. But I'm also sowing into the economic development that's going to lift people out of poverty right here in the city. I want to encourage you in that we're in this together. We're taking a step together. I'll say this. I was praying to, I'll be real straightforward. I think it's helpful for you all to know where we're at right now. We're hitting the financial goals that we set at the beginning of the year. Of an income of about $14,000 a month. That's huge, guys. Can we give it up? That's awesome. We prayed about it. We like, Lord, provide, and you all have stepped up in such an incredible way. As a body, we're reaching that. What we didn't anticipate was that as we grew, our expenses would increase as well. That's the learning curve on my part. I need to start factoring that in a little bit. We're still about $2,000 off on a monthly basis. Now some of that comes from outside sources that helps us out, no doubt. And some of that is just we're operating in the red and we're saying we've got some savings built up and we're living off of savings. And so instead of that being saved for the future, it's being used to maintain today. Nothing wrong with that for a season. But how many of y'all know that like where we're going as a church is going to require a little bit more? And so I was praying and I was like, Lord, how, you've given us all this vision. I don't know about you, but I'm moved by the reality that we're going to be literally sending out from this place by the end of the year over $14,000 to missions. Come on. Over $14,000. I'm moved. I literally was in tears the other day when I realized how it broke down numerically. I was in tears. Blown away that we get to be a part of it. And I'm also, as I pray about it, saying, Lord, I know there's so much more. And the word that the Lord gave me, my heart, was that the answer's in the house. The answer's in the house. And what that means, the answer's in the church. We don't need outside partners to come alongside. We don't need more people, whatever. What we need is to all pray collectively and say, Lord, how do I contribute to this going forward? What's my role in this financially too? We're all praying, we're all serving, we're all leaning in, absolutely. But Lord, what's my piece as I lean into this? Is it the tithe? What is it? And I would encourage you with this, and you can see where you're at on this. This is a generosity ladder, generosity step up. Spontaneous giving is that like, hey, I feel it on my heart to give. I'm going to go ahead and give. It's a lot like what we did for ARC. And we said, okay, I sense I need to give today, and so we give. Man, we have so many people who give spontaneously. Thank you. Thank you. What a difference it makes. And then as you continue to grow, it moves into intentional giving. A lot of people express this. I know that we expressed this initially with some basically recurring giving that we set up. And so maybe some of y'all set up your recurring giving, or you're like, hey, I know every time that I get paid, I'm going to give this much. Thank you for doing that. What a great step. Thank you on the church side, but what a great step for you. When someone gives for the first time, I usually call them or send them a text message or whatever, and I congratulate them on taking that big step of faith, because it's a big deal. And then when it's intentional, it's an even bigger deal, right? It takes sacrifice, thought, budgeting. And then you get to tithing. That's 10% belongs to the Lord. Pastor Micaiah talked about it earlier. And it's saying, God, my first fruits belong to you. I'm not going to tip you at the end with what I got left, but I'm going to plan and I'm going to give my first fruits at the beginning. 10% belong to God. And then there's the extravagant giving. I'll let you know, we're really good. Michelle and I are really good at right here, and we've been praying for an increase in finances so we can do more of this. And a lot of, honestly, I'm excited for this season because we have that ability to give like a real gift towards this thing that we're working towards right now. I'm really excited about that. Can I encourage you, wherever you're at on this ladder, think about what does it look like to take another step? We're only beginning. This body's only beginning. And God's got more. He's got more. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say to you to that. Today is not a day to give an extra gift. I want you to pray about it. I want you to go before the Lord. Say, God, what would you have me give towards this project? And God, where do you want me to be? What's the next step for me on here? What does that look like? I'm never going to tell you to give a certain amount. I'm never going to tell you to do it a certain way. But I will say this. I've seen it over and over and over again, that those who take those steps, and I know for Michelle and I as well, we take that step and say, God, I'm going to trust you with the tithe. I've never seen them forsaken. I've always seen blessing come from it. We've got stories. I hear them all the time. We just need to get them in front of you more often. But, man, I hear stories all the time of someone who started giving, started tithing, and then God does a miracle and provides in some crazy way. See it over and over again. It's awesome. So let's believe not just for finances. Let's believe for kingdom increase today. Can we do that? Let's believe for kingdom increase. And I'll say this. This is my last piece of this because I wanted to share this because these are all things the Lord kind of dropped in my heart last night too around this. Was that when he says the answer's in the house, it doesn't just mean that like, hey, based on what we have right now, the answer's in the house. Sometimes what that means is that as we give, God's going to bring increase. Because when we're faithful in that way, God brings increase. Why? Because he knows that we're going to pass it along. So he knows, hey, we're going to be a conduit. I'm going to bless you so you can keep on giving. So I'm not going to just give to you. I'm going to give through you. And by the way, that's how our church lives as well. Yeah. Okay. Let's close with prayer.